Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Christian Music Bros podcast. I'm your favorite host, Brendan, and once again, Brad's not here. If you're Brad, if you're listening to this, don't worry. Everyone's favorite host is both of us, not just me. But you're not here today, so I'm the favorite host today. But thank you again for tuning in. Today, I'm here with Phil King, so I'm just gonna let Phil introduce himself right away. Then we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's so good to be here with you, man. My name's Phil, and I live in Amarillo, Texas, which is the top part of Texas that's a square. We live right in the middle of that square, and we've got my wife and I, Kaylin and I, we have two babies. We had twins a couple years ago, so that's been crazy, but awesome. We love them so much. We have a son and a daughter, and it's been a blast. And yeah, my latest release, Bless My Soul, is full length album, just came out, and some highlights from it would probably be Psalm 23, I'm Not Alone, with Meredith Andrews. Lots of really cool guest artists on that project as well, and quite a hodgepodge of guest artists, but all friends. And that's the beautiful thing about the body of Christ, right? And worship and Christian music is it's not necessarily about sound or genre as much as it is we're part of a bigger family in Jesus. And so that's been cool, to put out some music like that. And another song, "Worry," as well, is kind of making a little bit of headway at some radio stations. So, yep, that's me in a nutshell, and I'm super happy to be here.
And for those who haven't listened to it, check out Phil's music. You can find it on Apple, Spotify. I say the streaming services every single time, and it's kind of getting repetitive by now, but go to wherever you stream music. And I know we were trying to get you right before your album came out, but then we had someone came up with us, and we had you had to reschedule. So it's finally great to sit down with you finally.
I made it.
This is like our third try. So anyone wanting to know a quick behind the scenes story, we've been trying to schedule this probably since like January, I think, something
Yes.
around there. And it's just been life's been chaotic.
Yeah. So glad to be here, man. Glad to finally make it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. Let's just start a little bit in. Can you talk us a little about your music background, how you got started into music and where you are today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I grew up in denomination called the UPC, which is a lot of organs and praise
Mhm.
breaks, like like just like super crazy. I guess you could call it gospel musicianship. That's pretty fun. And but we left that denomination when I was like 4 or 5 years old. But that influence
Mhm.
musically still hung around, even though we became a non-denominational church. That soulful sound really stuck around. And my grandparents went to pastor at this church in New York City called the Brooklyn Tabernacle, and it's an amazing church, super multicultural, and a beautiful gospel sound. And they've won several Grammys. In fact, my grandma from their time there, my grandfather was the pastor over the choir, and my grandma was a part of the choir, and they have some of their Grammys on the wall uh, from being a part of that in that season when Brooklyn Tab was doing some really cool stuff. So I was there a lot as a kid and was just listening to that music a lot as a kid at home. And through
Mhm.
them, that's the first time I heard of the Crab Family, Donnie McClurkin, Israel Houghton, all those guys. So definitely a pretty like soulful flair, from an early age, with my music and what I did and what I was around. And it just kind of gets into you, um, and that it comes out sometimes when I'm leading worship. I've had several people who have heard my music and they don't think I'm white. They think I'm much darker than I am now. And then when they look me up, they're like, "Oh my gosh." Not all of my music sounds like that. Some of it sounds more like, like modern worship stuff. But it is fun, to, especially in certain cities and regions or different parts of the world, even, when I've gone overseas to lead worship, that is a fun thing to really tap into, to connect to different cultures and parts of the world and parts of the body of Christ. So yep. And then after that, I was around that, and then I heard this guy named Michael W. Smith, and I came across his CD in one of those listening booths at a Christian music bookstore, and
Mhm.
I was like such a little kid, and I put those headphones on, and it was the Live the Life album, and I hit the play button, and I remember being like, and I just went, Mom. And my mom was so happy that I discovered him, because my parents were obviously fans of his for a long time. And it was super cool, when I was living in Nashville in my early 20s, got to meet him, his family, and he actually had me go out on the road with him a little bit and sing. And I sung on a couple of his albums, and still good friends with him to this day. So that's been really cool, to kind of have my hero as a part of my life is super special, even if it's a small part. It's really cool. And then after Smitty, this just big wave of worship just hit the world, it seems like, through Hillsong and Hillsong United and all those. So that's kind of like, that was my journey,
Exactly.
into songwriting and stuff. So pretty complex, and a lot going on there, a lot happening.
It's good to be complex because it gives you experience. It's good to
Yeah.
have just different experiences in here. People's different route. Like I don't remember who it is. Like I had one artist say that they've been to like California to New York to Texas to Nashville. Like they moved around like 5 times, and it's crazy to see because each area has like a different landscape slash culture. So you just incorporate all these cultures into one.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's amazing, and I would say that too, like I've lived in several different places, and each time you just kind of glean from where you're at, and keep growing. It's super cool.
yeah, and it's a great because it helps with music inspiration and everything.
Yes, yes.
And we just talked about we're going to go talk about your new album just to hear. Let's back up a little bit. You said you sang with different artists with like the first time I ever heard of you was with the song with Micah Tyler. I'm a big Micah Tyler fan.
Oh
I can't think
yeah,
of the name of the song on top of my head right now because there's so many song names in my head.
yeah.
Like I'm a music encyclopedia. Like I told you about this. I have like 600 albums and everything, and like I play
That's
every
so
single
cool.
one. So can you tell us a little bit like how you got started? Like how did Micah find you? Brandon was wondering how you and Micah became connected.
Yeah, yeah. So I was in Nashville, going back to that season in my early 20s when I was living there, and Jenny Riddle found me at a songwriting camp that she was leading, and it was kind of a by accident thing. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I just felt like I just walked in the door and just wanted to hear her talk for a second, and she actually like called me out of the audience and was like, "Hey, you come up here." I don't know. It was just a God thing, And so, anyways, I played her a song of mine, and she kind of took me under her wings there for a little bit, and introduced me to a lot of the big writers in town and organizations and whatnot, labels. And Micah, she had just met Micah at that same time too. And she got us together to write a song that was called Heading for the Mountain, that it needed a chorus. And so he came and he starts playing this chorus, is like, I got no time to look behind. And then I had this chorus. There's a prize there for me. There's a prize there for me. We kind of took like my chorus and his verses and put them together. And yeah, that was super cool. And Kyle Lee was actually working on that album, and he's a producer legend now. I joke around with him, or I did a few years ago, and I was like, "Man, you're like Luke Skywalker of the Christian music industry. Like you're just like bringing balance in so many cool ways." He's so talented. But anyways, it's the first time I met Kyle as well. So me, Kyle, Jenny Riddle, and Micah, we're all in the studio over there on, I think it was Franklin Road. Um, yeah, and a little studio somewhere over there in Franklin. And yeah, we laid down that track and finished that song out at the old Integrity. Integrity, before it moved to where it's at now, was in a tiny little building in downtown Franklin that was like a 2-room house or something like that. It was so small. But anyways, that's where I met Micah, and I just loved him so much. He's just one of the things that I'd say about Micah that's wonderful is he's always in a good mood, and that like cheery, full of joy, super grateful thing that you see on his social media and just at his shows. It's so real, and it's always been there. So I don't know. I just always was like, man, this is a great guy, and I'm super proud of him and his success and what he's been doing, the last 10, 15 years. It's been awesome.
He reminds me of Josh Gad. I'm sorry. He just reminds me of Josh Gad.
The who?
Micah.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever I say, but this is not about Micah, it's about you. But we were just curious. Flash forward a little bit. This I just disappeared. Cool. I
Yeah,
was
you did.
superpower. Sorry, I was superpower. But anyway, you're a part of People and Songs. Can you tell us a little
Uh-huh.
bit about People and Songs, like how you got involved
Yeah,
and everything?
yeah. So Jenny, myself, and Lauren Daigle, actually, we were all, and Darren was there, Jenny's husband, and we all went on a little like writing retreat at Jenny's house. And Lauren was actually working on her first album. None of us knew that that thing would blow up, but it did, and which is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing some of those songs when they were just on a piece of paper. Um, and we were all there, and Jenny had this idea, and she showed it to me at her house there, and she's like, "Hey, so I've got this idea called People and Songs, which is just nothing crazy, but I just want to have friends that I love, that we've written songs together, and it's just like a collaborative effort, a group effort, and we just put out a CD every now and then, and that's that." And I think her heart behind it was to gather different expressions of worship in the church and to bring together well-known artists and not well-known artists, well-known songwriters and not well-known songwriters all together, as a kind of like a family thing. And I remember her telling me about that like 13 years ago, and we were all over there, and I was kind of like, man, that's cool. And then that was that. I just kind of forgot about it. And then a few years later, Micah's doing stuff there, and Charity Gale's doing stuff there, and all these awesome I'm forgetting everyone's names right now, but
Yeah, okay.
I mean, just like so many amazing, talented people, and their songs just were starting to take off, which was super cool. And I kind of have this weird knack with my life to be around things when they're being born.
Mm-hmm.
Or people, when stuff is happening and something special is being birthed. And sometimes I don't even realize that that's what's happening, but it's just a blessing, to get to see different artists and movements, in those special seasons, and just love on them, which is super cool. But anyways, yeah, People and Songs just took off. And meanwhile, I'm over in Dallas at CFNI, and then at a church there, just doing some stuff. And that season kind of came to a close, and the guy who I was working for, named Craig Dunnigan, and Craig is an awesome song guy. He just has a great ear for finding wonderful songs, and he went back with Jenny quite a ways, and this is a few years ago. So I had that season with People and Songs a long time ago at its birth, and then we come to like just a few years ago, and Craig's like, "Hey, you've done great with your season here as a songwriter, blah, 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 but I really think you need to look at going to this group called People and Songs." And I was like, I know People and Songs. I know Jenny. Like, I go way back with them. And so it was like a wild, like 10-year full circle, coming back to the season we're in now. And it's been good for my heart, man. Just be around some old friends. And I think that's one of the things that I love. At first, when you get into the industry, when you're young, you're kind of wide-eyed and starry-eyed, and you're just like, oh, all the stuff and the opportunity. But the older you get, the more it becomes about friendship and lasting friendship. And I think of that song. I'm not poking fun at all, although it's an older song, but I just love the "and friends are friends forever." If the Lord's the Lord of them, that old Smitty song, is true. And I've just really loved some of the friendships that have come through that season. In my early 20s, and the People and Songs, seeing that in its infancy. So it's been cool, man. And I love that that's a big part of Jenny and Darren's thought process too, is relationship and friendship. And that allowed, I think, to have a lot of friends on this last project, as guest artists. So that's been pretty cool.
And
Sorry, I'm talking so much.
No, you're good. You're
a lot
good.
of history here.
No, you're good. You're good. We give you the floor. So I guess you want to speak. We have people that speak 2 minutes. We have people that spoke 20 minutes. So
All right.
but
I'll land somewhere in the middle.
no, you're fine. You're fine. But anyway, jump forward. You now have that. I disappeared again. I'm sorry. This green screen's really bad. I'm sorry, guys. But jump forward into nowadays. We were gonna get you before you released your album, like a week before, but now your new album's out. Can you tell us a little bit about your new album that you just released?
Yeah. So it's 14 tracks, and there are some brand new songs on there that I wrote. There are some brand new songs on there that other people wrote. I'm gonna blow my nose real quick. Let me
Yep.
wait a second.
Yep, you're good.
And there are some old songs on there that other folks wrote, and some old songs on there that I wrote. And you're looking at some of those songs on that project, and I think it's why it's so rich. If you listen to it all the way through, it's like, man, this is like a, there's some projects that are light and happy, and some that are just a vibe. This one I think has a lot of depth and richness in the soil and the dirt, of the songs. And it's because a lot of it's the way I describe it is, you ever go to those neighborhoods that have really old trees, and there's just something cozy about those like old trees and those old neighborhoods when you drive through, and they're kind of stretching over the street like a canopy. And I feel like that's what this album is in a lot of ways, is there's a canopy of history with a lot of these people, and the age of some of these songs that made it really beautiful and really rich. The title track, actually, Bless My Soul, is like a 13-year-old song. It's like a teenager, but it was just sitting on the shelf. It was an old idea, and one of the guys that was in the studio playing guitar, I actually wrote it with him like forever ago when I was like 21 or 22. And he's like, "You remember this song?" And he played it. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to record that one." And Jenny was like, "Oh, I love it." And a bunch of the other guys, it was actually kind of the highlight of that day in the studio. And I was like, well, okay. If they like it, then I guess I like it. And I had no idea it would become the title track. But anyways, it's been cool, just to, and again, the thing that matters the most is the friendships on there. Everyone from, Guy Penrod, who's a Gaither legend, to Chris Burns, who on social media is just unbelievable, just the revelation he has and his walk with Jesus, to, Meredith Andrews, to Jacqueline Carr, who's just like a vocal animal. She's just unbelievable. Sorry, girls, I shouldn't use that word for a woman, but she's a beast. You know what I mean? Like, what I mean when I say that. She's just like incredible. And then to, Lyndall Cooley, who's a legend, just with everything that God did in Florida in the 90s. And he was the first guy to sing some of the songs, or at least make them known. Like, he wrote "I Need You More Than Yesterday," and then he's the first guy to really "Draw Me Close to You" big, and just a special guy, and he really just means a lot to me. So anyways, just a lot of friends, and that's just, it's good, and that's really I think in life, what keeps you going is the encouragement of the Lord and his word and of friends. And who you surround yourself with is so important, and I'm very grateful for the friendships. And I have a lot of great friendships that are not musically related at all, but I have a lot of great friendships in the music world, and I'm super grateful for that. And that's a big part of this album.
And those who are listening, make sure to check out Phil's new album. We talked a little bit about the beginning. I'm not going to list those 3-week services again. Maybe MySpace, but if you find out MySpace,
that's great.
But we just have a few extra minutes today. We like to give our guests the floor to speak about whatever they want to speak about. So the floor is yours for a second.
Yeah. Man, I think something I'd love to talk about is, really what God's been speaking to me about. I'll just share that. is kind of the seasons of life. Of as you get older, it's like I'm learning so much about walking with the Lord, and even what I'm called to do as a creative and what I'm called to do as a worship leader and a songwriter. So much of it's seasonal. In fact, I would say all of it is. And, I just think there is beauty in solitude and in waiting on the Lord. And I think a lot of us struggle with that because of, I think, maybe the hype of social media that makes you think like, okay, I need to be doing more. I don't know if you've ever had that, but I know a lot of people listening probably have, where you actually start to feel better about yourself and your life the less you're on social media and seeing what's going on with others, because it's just a snapshot of people's highlights, right? And when all you see is highlights, it can really make you feel bad about a normal day, which is crazy. But anyways, I think of when Jesus said, I am the branch and you're the vines, and my Father is the vine dresser or the gardener, and he's talking in John 15 or 16, I think. And a lot of what God talks about with us is in the nature of gardening. He talks about our hearts, the parable of the farmer sowing seed being like soil. There's hard ground, there's good ground, there's rocky ground, there's thorny ground. And he said, but the good soil, blah, blah, blah. And he talks about trees and pruning and all that. But, the thing is like, the thing I'd want to encourage everybody with today listening and share from my heart is just trust God with the season that you're in, whatever it looks like. Even if you're in a season of being pruned. When I go out, I like to garden. I don't tell my plants, hey, I'm about to prune you today. I just do it. And sometimes that happens in our lives, like you lose a job all of a sudden, or you have a season change all of a sudden, or if you're an artist and a label is like, hey, we're done, we think this is the end of the road. And it's like, you have pruning seasons, and sometimes trees need to be pruned like a lot.
Exactly.
But we need to remember the reason why. Jesus said, I'm pruning you because he loves us, and because he says, so that you will bear more fruit. And those seasons, and I'm just coming out of one where you go through a lot of transition and pruning from the Lord, you feel kind of like a tree does. I don't know if you've ever seen a tree or if you've ever pruned a tree like big time. It looks like exposed. It looks naked. It looks like it's like tiny and shriveled up again, and like kind of going back to the basics. And that's the beauty of those seasons, is there's a vulnerability that comes with it and a brokenness that comes with it that should put you back towards the Lord and your basics of walking with him and with Jesus. And I just would want to encourage everybody with that, no matter where you're at, to trust God with the pruning, and don't force your way or run from a season where God is maybe pulling some things back and trimming some things back. Like I said, I like to garden a lot here at our house. We have a super green yard. I wish I could show it to you guys. It's awesome. It kind of looks like your fake background there.
I knew it. That's why I chose this background. I just knew.
I love it. I love it. It goes well. But yeah, is to just rest in the seasons and just know that Jesus knows where to find you, and he knows how to get you back to your fruitful place, and he's going to. And so often when we feel like our dreams are dying or God's forgotten about us, it's actually when he's doing the most foundational work in our lives to get us ready for an awesome future. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening, if you have anything you want to say, you can drop a comment. You can go message Phil. You can
absolutely.
You can blow up his social media if you want, just with likes and everything. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I always write back. And people ask. I mean, every now and then you get crazy stuff or spam, and I don't write back to that. But if it's if it's real, I always get back to people. I love to do that. Thank you for telling people to do that.
Yeah, and you can always follow him. I think it's just Phil King Music. music
Yeah.
on Instagram. I don't remember social media handles. I'm sorry. There's so many social media
Yeah.
handles. There's fake accounts. So I just wanted to give you the right one.
Yeah.
Phil,
Well, the easiest thing would be to go to philkingmusic.com. And if you click the little icons for the different social media things, it'll just take you right there.
that's the fancy way of doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll drop a link to Phil's website in the description of this video. So if you're watching and you're like, how do I get to his website? Well, the
Thank
link's
you,
in the
bro.
video. Well, Phil, it was nice to sit down with you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, you too, man. It's so nice to finally meet you. And you have to tell Braden, right? Did
Braden.
I say that right? Yeah, you got to tell him I'm bummed I missed him.
And to everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on the Christian Music Bros podcast. Take care, everyone.